In the spirit of Abraham Lincoln's call for reconciliation and forgiveness, a truly Christian and more or less unprecedented statement of keeping the house together, keeping the family together, I can understand how Trump supporters, to the extent that they really genuinely feel that their right to vote has been subverted and that they're being cheated on, and that it's patriotic to consider at least armed insurrection. I have to say that from the left in the 1960s, and there's a major distinction, which I'll get to, the idea of even implying or threatening armed insurrection and challenging the state and calling the president and the presidency a lot of awful names, that there was a righteous cause and two things, Vietnam and civil rights. And there were two huge lies. The big lie is not unprecedented. Vietnam was the hugest of lies. If it weren't for Daniel Ellsberg, we might still be believing that it was a righteous war, a just cause, and a legitimately supported. And in the very highest reaches of government, there was a conspiracy, a collusion, to keep that secret from the United States. And tens of thousands, almost 100,000 Americans died, and more were injured. Lives ruined for a big lie. Gulf of Tonkin, huge lie. We're shocked that Putin would have the temerity to interfere with our sovereignty and our elections. Ask the CIA about Iran. Ask it about the elections after World War II in Italy. Ask about the head of the Chilean armed forces and his assassination. Ask Henry Kissinger about that. These were the actions of American government. So if there's no trust in the American government or cynicism about the American government, I can understand. The distinction is we really genuinely had a proven just cause in the 1960s. Vietnam, as I say, was a tremendous lie, and there was an even bigger lie to African Americans and other minority Americans. 15th Amendment in 1870 guaranteed that the United States would not deny or even abridge the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. That was specifically after, the slaves had been, the Emancipation Proclamation was only 5 years earlier, so that was why it was specifically cited, because blacks were specifically denied the right to vote and denied full citizenship, and that's what the 15th Amendment was supposed to guarantee. Jim Crow looked at that, and for 100 years, that was a big lie. And one of the ways that, I don't know if there would have been a change unless there was some implication of violence, unless there was a Malcolm X to counterbalance Martin Luther King. Speaking of whom, the CIA famously threatened to reveal his sexual trysts, to rat him out, and asked him to kill himself in order to avoid that. So, there's dirty hands. And it's dirty hands on the side of the government and the side of authoritarian government. So that's what the fight was about in the 1960s. And now, subject to another tremendous lie, unfortunately, we have millions of our fellow Americans who are just as provoked as we were by the prospect of the government denying us our legitimate rights and our legitimate will of the people based on lies. But it's the other side of the score. It's the other side of the record, and that's what the tragedy is. So I think we're not going to get anywhere with Trump supporters. They're not going to admit them or embrace them in the union unless we can get past this complete antithesis and our sort of moral superiority. The tactics of the 60s are very similar to the tactics of the 20s in the 21st century. I think way different consequences, way different death count, way different legitimizing purposes. But I think we have to forgive them their excesses and try to get them to the other side and see that they are fighting the same thing that we fought.